So here's the big question. Is the world on the brink of a third world war? It's a scary thought, right? Today, we're going to dive into one very specific narrative that tries to answer that. And I really have to stress, this is a speculative scenario, a what-if that explores this absolutely terrifying possibility.
The source material we're looking at today kicks off with this really powerful idea. It says the big wars, they don't just happen overnight. It's not one big explosion. It's more like a slow burn. They simmer for a long, long time, fueled by all these broken promises and, well, big egos, until finally, one little spark lights the whole fuse.
And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. Has that pot finally boiled over? We're going to break down a pretty wild fictional timeline from our source, a what-if that claims that in January 2026, the world didn't just reach the boiling point. Oh no, it completely boiled over.
All right, so our source gives this period a pretty intense name, the Calendar of Destruction. And it's basically the series of crazy rapid-fire events all happening in just 11 days. And in this story, those 11 days changed, well, they changed everything. They're what set the stage for a massive global conflict.
Okay, just take a look at this. This is the sequence of events. In less than 2 weeks, according to this narrative, the world just gets hammered by one crisis after another. We're talking about Venezuela, Russia, India, China, even a NATO ally gets pulled into the mess. It's a lot. So let's break down exactly what this scenario says went down step by step.
So, it all supposedly kicks off on New Year's Day. Imagine this. U.S. commandos land in the capital of Venezuela, and they literally take the president, Nicolas Maduro, from his own home. Now, in this scenario, the White House calls it a liberation, but the rest of the world, they see it for what it is, a completely unprecedented act of aggression.
And it doesn't stop there. Just 2 days later, the focus shifts to Russia. The U.S. Navy reportedly seizes a Russian nuclear sub and an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. What's so wild about this is how the source frames it. This isn't some quiet move. It's a very loud, very public provocation. It's like throwing down the gauntlet right in front of Vladimir Putin.
Then, boom, the battlefield changes. It's not about ships and commandos anymore. It's about money. A staggering 50% tariff gets slapped on India, a country that's usually considered an ally. And the public reason for this? Get this. The Indian Prime Minister apparently didn't call President Trump, and it hurt his ego. Yeah, right. As we're about to see, the source says there's a much deeper game going on here.
And the very next day, it's China's turn, another superpower in the crosshairs. U.S. ships allegedly block oil tankers headed for China. The message couldn't be clearer. We control the energy. We control you. The source presents this as a straight-up attempt to choke China's economy, basically to cut off its oxygen supply and watch it gasp. And this is supposedly the moment where the old rulebook gets thrown out the window completely. The U.S. allegedly threatens Denmark, a NATO ally, demanding they sell Greenland, sell an entire country, or else. This move signals that in this new, chaotic world, nobody is safe, not even your friends.
Okay, so you have to be asking why. Why would all of this happen so fast? It seems chaotic, right? Well, the source argues it's not really about ego. It's not just about showing off military muscle. It all comes down to protecting one thing, and one thing only, the absolute supremacy of the US dollar.
Let's circle back for a second to that insane 50% tariff on India. Remember that? On the surface, it just doesn't make any sense. It's this huge, aggressive move against a friendly country, all because of, what, a bruised ego? It seems totally random. But was it really just about ego? Well, according to the source we're breaking down, absolutely not. It claims this was actually a very carefully calculated shot in a much bigger, much more secret economic war.
So here's the supposed real reason. The problem wasn't a missed phone call. The real problem was that India was buying cheap oil from Russia, and they were doing it using their own currencies. They were bypassing the US dollar. Now, if that idea catches on, if other countries start doing it, it could shake the entire foundation of America's economic power. So that 50% tariff, it wasn't about an ego trip. It was a warning shot fired for the entire world to see. Don't you dare mess with the dollar.
And this whole dollar war thing, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The source calls all of this a new war, and it's being fought on battlefields you can't even see, with a brutal new set of rules where old friendships, well, they don't mean much anymore.
This slide right here, it really nails the shift in thinking. In this new world order, the source describes the definition of a friend has totally changed. A friend isn't a partner anymore. There's someone who just does what they're told. And an enemy? That's anyone who dares to think for themselves and look out for their own country's interests. And that is why old alliances like NATO are suddenly on life support.
And if you thought that was bad, it gets even scarier. The source claims there's a war already happening right now, in cyberspace. It alleges that big tech billionaires are using tools like Starlink to meddle in countries like Venezuela and Iran. And of course, other countries aren't just sitting back. Their cyber armies are firing up too. And we're talking about the terrifying possibility of someone hacking a whole country's power grid or destroying GPS satellites in space. Imagine that. We could be sent back to the dark ages with a single click.
So what does all this mean for you and me, for regular people? Well, the source brings this huge global conflict right down to a personal level. It points to two really big clues. First, what the super rich are doing to prepare, and second, how the global economy could just completely fall apart for the rest of us.
Okay, this is a pretty chilling detail from the source. It claims that tech billionaires and Wall Street hotshots are spending a fortune on personal security. Not just that, they're building these insane, high-tech survival bunkers in places like New Zealand, stocking them with enough food and supplies to ride out the apocalypse for years. They're not just getting nervous, they are preparing for something. So while the rich are busy building their bunkers, the source warns that a devastating economic storm is brewing for everyone else. Think about it. A major oil crisis could cause prices for everything to skyrocket. That's hyperinflation. Companies, trying to survive, would start laying people off left and right. Your savings, they could be wiped out. It's a picture of total economic chaos.
So why are the elites supposedly so freaked out? The source brings up this concept from Hindu mythology called the Lakshman Rekha. It's basically a line in the sand, a point of no return. You cross it, and disaster follows. And the source argues that in this fictional story, when Trump declared himself the president of another country, that was it. That was the line being crossed. It was such a bold, insane move that it made the threat of nuclear war feel horribly, terrifyingly real.
There's this powerful metaphor in the source that just perfectly sums up the feeling of this whole scenario. The match has been lit and has fallen on the gunpowder. It basically says the process has started. The countdown is on, and the explosion, well, it's not a matter of if anymore. And so this whole story leaves us with one last, pretty unsettling thought. According to this narrative, the question isn't if a global catastrophe is coming, whether it's economic or military. The only question left is, when the explosion finally happens, where are we going to be?